5 years ago, Delbert and I had a child, but due to health issues, the baby passed away shortly after birth. The doctor also said I would have a hard time getting pregnant again. That event was a huge blow to me. For a long time, every time I saw a child, I would break down emotionally. His parents didn't dare rush me, and he himself didn't dare say a word about children to me. Whenever we passed by a maternity store, he would change the subject or take me another way to avoid it. I mentioned divorce once, but Delbert refused. He said that having a child didn't matter to him that much, and if I really wanted one, we could adopt. I know he actually likes children. Putting his feelings aside, he's under a lot of pressure from his parents. In the past year, I secretly went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with me and advised me to relax. As long as my husband was fine, getting pregnant was just a matter of time. And there was nothing wrong with him, so after 5 years of losing our child, I finally became pregnant, 48 days along with twins. When the doctor confirmed it was twins, tears immediately welled up in my eyes. Fate took away one baby, but now it's giving me two. Delbert would be so happy to hear this news. Without a moment's hesitation, I took the pregnancy test results and went to find him at his office. I drove to his company building, and as soon as I got out of the car, I saw a tall man holding hands with a little girl. I couldn't hear what the girl asked, but the man stopped and knelt down, patiently explaining something to her. The midday sun bathed their faces, and it was a beautiful sight. I thought, if that's Delbert, he would definitely treat our child with the same tenderness. He would be a great father. A woman standing nearby softly suggested, "Gil, Daddy's busy. Let's go home now, okay?" "No, I want to stay with Daddy," the little girl said stubbornly, hugging the man's arm and refusing to let go. "Gil. Daddy has to work now. How about we wait until he's off work, to spend time together?" The man bent down to lift the child up, but when he turned his head and saw me, his face froze. It really was Delbert. But the child calling him Daddy wasn't ours. Standing next to him was his ex, Janice. When did they have a child? Ingrid, seeing me, Delbert gently set the little girl down, stood up, and walked toward me. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice a little tense. Then he added, "Don't you have work today?" If I didn't come, how would I have seen such a warm scene? I smiled lightly, but my heart felt like it was bleeding. I had just confirmed my pregnancy at the hospital, and now I was turning around to see him with a child who looked about 4 or 5 years old. "Long time no see," Janice said, pulling the child behind her. After greeting me, she explained softly, the child insisted on seeing her father. I had no choice but to bring her. "You two go ahead, I'll take Gil home now." "No need, I'm the one who should leave." I quickly said these words, turned, and got back in my car, driving away from the scene. I was afraid I'd break down if I stayed any longer. But no matter how much I tried to hold myself together, when I got home, I completely broke down. I couldn't understand why Delbert would have such a big child with Janice. The child looked around 4 or 5 years old. If our child hadn't passed away 5 years ago, they would be about this age now. The chances of Delbert and his ex still being involved seemed slim. So it was very possible that, when they broke up, Janice was already pregnant with his child. That child wouldn't be 4 or 5, they'd be 5 or 6 by now. Sitting in the car, I blankly stared out the window, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. What should I do now? What should I do? I already lost one child 5 years ago. This time, I don't want to lose these 2 babies. So no matter what, I have to keep them. But what if they have to share a father with someone else? Delbert doesn't love me. I've always known that. When we got married, he told me, "Since we've chosen to marry, I will treat you well, but there's a big empty space in my heart. So Ingrid, if you want love, I may not be able to give it to you, but I will try to love you." With those last words, I felt it was enough. I smiled and said, "It's okay, I don't live for love. I don't live for love, I live for you." At that time, I just felt that as long as I could be by his side, living the rest of my life with the title of Mrs. Delbert, I would be happy. Because since I was 16, becoming his wife was my greatest dream, even more than drawing. In the 6 years of our marriage, I never once regretted it. Delbert may not love me, but he's a great husband. He has a gentle personality, no bad habits, works hard, maintains a harmonious family, is wealthy and handsome, and he's never been stingy with me. More importantly, he's not lacking in romance. He knew I liked rituals, so at our wedding, he put in a lot of effort. The venue was decorated in my favorite warm orange, and he found photos and videos of me from my childhood to play at the ceremony, saying he had been absent in so many years and would make up for it from now on. It moved all the women at the scene, including me, to tears. After the wedding, he took me to Switzerland for our honeymoon. He knew I liked skiing, so he arranged for my favorite ski athlete to accompany me. And every wedding anniversary, he never forgets or skips it. Besides giving gifts, he also takes me out to have fun. I remember last year's anniversary, he rented a yacht to take me out to sea. We dived, went shell hunting, watched the sunrise and sunset by the sea, and he said for this year's anniversary, he would take me abroad for a hot air balloon ride. When we lost our first child 5 years ago, he hardly worked overtime that year. He came home from work almost every day to have dinner with me, and afterward, we'd watch movies or take walks together. All those romantic details are still vivid, like they happened just yesterday. Sometimes I wonder if he has already fallen in love with me. Otherwise, why would he spend so much time and effort doing so many things for me? But that thought would always be crushed when I woke up in the middle of the night, seeing him staring blankly on the balcony or secretly flipping through his ex's old diary. In these 6 years, he never mentioned her name, but that name never left his heart. Now she's back, and she brought his child with her. In front of her and her daughter, any responsibility or affection he once had for me was completely irrelevant. It didn't even need a gust of wind, it could be blown away with the slightest touch. What difference does it make that I'm carrying twins? I have no competence to fight for him. I cried in the car for a long time. When I pulled myself together and walked into the house, Delbert had returned. He was holding my favorite shrimp wontons. Not eating yet? I brought you your favorite food, he said, placing the takeout box on the table and slowly unwrapping it. Mom said you went to the hospital for a checkup today. Is something wrong? His concern was so sincere, too sincere, that I almost forgot, not long ago, he was parading around with his ex's child. I took a deep breath and looked up at Delbert. Looking at the husband I'd shared a bed with for 6 years and had loved for over a decade, I suddenly felt so unfamiliar. That's your child, isn't it? Honestly, this question felt unnecessary. If it weren't his, he wouldn't have called himself Dad, nor would he have taken so long to come back and explain. He would have stopped me on the spot and cleared things up right then and there. He lowered his gaze, responding with silence. Clearly, silence meant agreement. My heart sank little by little. After a while, he spoke to explain, I didn't know she was pregnant, nor did I know she had a child. So? I looked up at him. My mind was a mess, and I didn't know what to do. When I thought of the child inside me, sometimes, selfishly, I wished he would just leave them, the mother and daughter, behind, and live a stable life with me. But once they showed up, my life could never be stable again. When did you find out? I asked. Not long ago, about half a month ago. Half a month ago. I suddenly remembered that on a certain night, half a month ago, he said he'd accompany me to the movies after work. I bought the tickets and waited for him at the mall, but he told me he had something urgent to take care of and would be a little late. I thought he was working overtime, so I went ahead and watched the movie alone. He came back late that night. After that, he often worked overtime, and sometimes when I offered to bring him lunch, he always had an excuse, saying he was eating out. A few days ago, I started feeling morning sickness and throwing up after meals. At first, I thought it was a stomach issue. But when we had dinner together 2 days ago, he noticed and said he'd take me to the hospital for a checkup. But even when I realized I was pregnant, I still didn't get to go to the hospital with him. There were signs all along. But because of these 6 years we'd spent together, I chose to ignore those details and chose to believe. I thought I could give him a big surprise in the end. I didn't expect him to give me a surprise first, so suddenly. I'll take care of it, just give me some time, he said. It seemed like he still felt a sense of responsibility toward me, not even mentioning divorce despite everything. I'm tired. I'll go lie down for a bit, I said. I wanted to ask him how he planned to solve this, wanted to demand an answer that would help me let go. But I held myself back. My mind was a mess, and he was probably going through a tough decision, too. If I pushed him, I'd only end up pushing him closer to them. Call me selfish, or say I'm being unreasonable, but I just didn't want to make things easy for them. He's still my husband, why should I have to compromise? I also wanted the child in my womb to be born into a complete family, to have a father's love from the start, not to be abandoned. Delbert didn't come after me, and I sighed in relief. I sat on the bed for a while, then lay down and fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I was woken up by hunger. I was about to go downstairs to find something to eat when I overheard Delbert and his mother talking at the stairs. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? If she hadn't called me, I wouldn't have known she brought a child back. It was Delbert's mother's voice, speaking softly with a hint of helplessness. It seemed Janice couldn't wait anymore and went directly to Delbert's mother. So, what are you going to do now? My mother-in-law asked. I saw Delbert slumped on the sofa, scratching his head in frustration, replying, I don't know. Have you done a paternity test? Is it really your child? Yes. Since it's your child, you can't just leave it out there. Though I couldn't see her face from where I was, I could hear a trace of happiness in her voice. Ingrid is a good girl, and she's done us a favor, but we can't ignore the child because of that. Mom, I can't let Ingrid down. If it weren't for her family's help back then. Delbert and I got married not because he was moved by my love over the years, but because my family helped us through a financial crisis, saving his almost bankrupt company. At first, my dad actually disagreed because Delbert's company had so many debts to pay off, but in the end, he couldn't resist my pleading and helped him. I never mentioned marriage, it was Delbert who proposed. He said he'd treat me well and spend his life repaying me. I know, but we can't just abandon the child. How about this? We give the woman some money, get the child's custody, and you and Ingrid raise it together. Would you raise your husband's ex's child? Delbert asked, his voice hoarse. Then what else can we do? You can't just forget the favor, divorce Ingrid, and marry that woman, can you? I don't know. I shouldn't have listened to you back then. Otherwise, it wouldn't have turned out like this. My heart tightened at his words. Now you're blaming me? You didn't object when I asked you to do this. Did it matter if I objected? The wedding was planned by you, the honeymoon trip was arranged by you, and for every holiday or anniversary, you prepared gifts for me to give Ingrid. Even every day when it was time to get off work, you'd send me messages and call, demanding I go home to be with her. Delbert paused for a moment before continuing, if I didn't do everything right, you'd bring up how her family helped us, telling me not to forget our debts, that I should be good to Ingrid, that Janice left because she was a gold digger, and that Ingrid is the good girl I can't let down. You talk about not letting her down, but weren't you also thinking about the partnership with her family's company? So that was it. All these years, their kindness toward me had been because my father helped them out back then, and has continued to help them ever since. I thought all the surprises he gave me were carefully prepared, that he was truly touched by my sincerity and wanted to accept me. But in reality, everything had been forced on him by his mother. It wasn't that he felt nothing at all. I had noticed before that whenever he was a bit nicer to me, I could feel his emotional distance. After every moment of happiness, I could see more sadness on his face. All these years, pretending to like me, pretending to be kind, he must have endured it with great difficulty, right? My stomach churned, and I rushed to the bathroom, almost throwing up bile. I tried to control my discomfort as I crouched down slowly, afraid the sudden dizziness might make me collapse. My stomach felt like it was being burned, and I gasped for air, one hand holding my body up and the other clutching my throat to ease the suffocating feeling. Baby, is Mommy useless? After all these years, I couldn't even tell if someone was being genuine or fake. I don't know when Delbert and his mother left. By the time I felt a bit better and went downstairs again, they were already gone. For the sake of the baby in my belly, I forced myself to eat some of the food Delbert had bought for me, despite feeling miserable. But the intense nausea made me throw everything up in the end. After throwing up, I didn't feel bad anymore. In fact, I suddenly became very calm. A thought formed in my mind. At 16, I thought my love for Delbert was unshakable. I thought no matter how Delbert treated me, I would always love him the same way. But now I realize that love can disappear in an instant, with just a single sentence. In this marriage and relationship, I've always been performing a one-man show. but so what? Even if this one-man show goes on until death, I still don't want to be the one to make things right for him and Janice. So, between divorcing to make them happy and staying in the marriage to keep dragging each other along, I chose the latter. I pretended not to hear the conversation between Delbert and his mother and continued to put him in a difficult position. Because I knew, if I chose divorce now, it would be a relief for him. He might not thank me, but instead feel like a huge weight was lifted off his shoulders. I couldn't let him have his way. With that thought, I suddenly felt a bit of energy. I opened WeChat and sent Delbert a message. "Hubby, the food you bought me is cold, but I'm really hungry now. Can you bring me another one?" "Sure." Delbert replied quickly. Less than 20 minutes later, he appeared in front of me, hurrying with a bowl of shrimp wontons. Under his eager gaze, I ate them, one by one, carefully. But I underestimated my own endurance. After eating half, I couldn't help but rush to the bathroom to throw up again. "What's wrong with your body?" he asked, concerned. "Mom said you went to the hospital for a checkup." "What did the doctor say?" "I did get checked." I hesitated, looking at him, my eyes brimming with tears. "But right now, I don't want to tell you. I'm scared." "Scared of what?" He furrowed his brows, asking again, "What's going on?" I took a deep breath, like I had just made a huge decision, and said, "I'm pregnant." When I said this, I saw his expression change: surprise, shock, and confusion, all in a few seconds. The CEO, who was always so composed, now wore an incredibly complicated expression. But there was one thing missing: happiness. "I thought you'd be happy." I lowered my gaze and pretended to act calm. "Thankfully, I didn't tell my parents. Let's handle it ourselves so they won't be upset." Retreating to advance was the best strategy. From the years I've known Delbert, I knew he would fall for this tactic. The reason he was nice to me, because he listened to his mother, was simply because he felt guilty. Now, what I needed to do was make him feel even more guilty. I pulled out the crumpled pregnancy test report from my bag and placed it in front of him. "The doctor said it's twins. I originally planned to secretly have an abortion so you wouldn't be in a tough spot, but I just couldn't gather the courage. Will you come with me?" I guessed he wouldn't let me go through with the abortion. The past half-month, he had secretly met with Janice because he knew that the cooperation between the two family companies couldn't be affected by our marriage. "Why do you want an abortion?" Delbert took the pregnancy report and glanced at it. His eyes reddened slightly. He pulled me into his arms and whispered, "Ingrid, I'm sorry, really sorry. I'm happy that you're pregnant. Please don't give up on them. Let's keep them, okay? But what about you and her child?" I looked at Delbert, my eyes brimming with tears. "I'll handle it." He gently patted my shoulder, then helped me sit down properly. "Eat something first. It'll get cold again." After learning that I was pregnant, Delbert started coming home from work earlier. Even these past few days, he would come and have lunch with me. My gallery is not far from his office, only a 10-minute drive. In the past, I was the one who would nag him to eat with me, but now, the roles had reversed. He would come and find me for lunch every day. I interacted with him just like I always had, chatting during meals about the clients I met, the paintings I did, his work, the movies I'd recently seen, funny jokes, but never about his child with his ex. I didn't bring it up, letting him think I was generous and didn't care. This was in stark contrast to Janice, who kept pressuring him. These days, Delbert stayed by my side, and I bet Janice must have been frantic. Several times, I saw Delbert's phone light up and then dim again. Call after call, message after message. Except for a few work-related calls, the rest were all from Janice. I knew he still met with Janice and her daughter during his work hours. "Delbert, if you'd been even a little more honest with her and shown more resolve, I wouldn't be so disappointed in you." But Janice wasn't dumb. Realizing Delbert wouldn't be easily swayed, she went to his parents. On the weekend, Delbert and I went back to the old house for a meal, and to my surprise, that child was there too. Her mom said she has a business trip for 2 days and no one can watch the kid, so she brought her over. My mother-in-law looked guilty, as if she were afraid I'd be upset. She sighed and muttered, "I told her I didn't have time to watch, but she said to just leave her here to take care of herself. There's nothing we can do. We can't really just ignore her." Though my mother-in-law sounded reluctant, the way she looked at the child was full of tenderness. It seemed the child had been there for a few days and had gotten along quite well with Delbert's parents. I could understand it, though. They were both in their 60s, and seeing their peers with grandchildren, they must have been envious. I could just imagine the smiles on their faces when they took the little girl out and were praised for having such a well-behaved, pretty granddaughter. "Daddy." The little girl walked shyly toward Delbert and softly called out to him. Seeing her trying to jump into his arms, but too afraid to do so, I felt a pang of sadness in my heart. I should hate this child, because her presence made me realize that my seemingly perfect marriage was just a facade. It turned my hopes of having two little lives into a joke. But looking at her fragile body and pitiful, scared expression, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. Clearly, under her mother's guidance, she hated me. When she saw me walk into the villa, she ran up and hit me. "You bad woman. You're the one who doesn't let Daddy see me, you're the one who makes Mommy cry secretly at night. I hate you." "Gil, what are you doing?" Delbert immediately stepped in to protect me, grabbing the little girl's hand and scolding her, "Don't be so rude." "What?" "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I just really miss you." The little girl threw herself into Delbert's arms, crying pitifully. Seeing the child cry so sadly, Delbert's parents came over and whispered, "She doesn't understand, just let it go. Why can't Daddy play with me? Why can't Daddy take me to school? Why do the other kids call me an unwanted bastard? I have a daddy." A series of questions left the room in silence, with no one able to answer her. Realizing the awkward atmosphere, Delbert's mother pulled me inside. "Let's go inside, don't argue with the child." Seeing her cling to Delbert, not letting him go, purposely saying these things to make him feel sorry for her, I couldn't help but sneer in my heart. Is it the child who doesn't understand, or is it the mother who's teaching her well? With Gil's arrival, the once lifeless Gu family's old home suddenly became lively. After all, she was a child around 5 or 6 years old. Even if she'd just been upset, she could still smile happily when she encountered interesting toys or tasty food. In just a few days, the house was filled with children's toys, and even a slide for little kids had been prepared. Everything was pink. It was blinding. Even Father Song, usually so stern, had a smile on his face, looking kinder and more affectionate. Perhaps this was the bond of blood. Even if Delbert's parents didn't like Janice, they couldn't help but adore her and Delbert's daughter. But it wasn't entirely just the bloodline. After spending 2 hours with them, I noticed something. Putting aside the fact that she was the daughter of my rival, I also saw that she was beautiful and well-behaved. For instance, when the servants brought in fruit, she would offer it to her grandparents first, then to Delbert, and only after that would she eat it herself. When she wanted to play with toys, she would first ask if it was okay with her grandparents. She also made a point of seeking Delbert's attention, trying to please him, which made her even more endearing. Watching their family interact so harmoniously, at that moment, I felt like an outsider. But I was an outsider, so why pretend? Delbert seemed to realize he had been too focused on his daughter and had ignored me. During dinner, he urged me to eat more. But because I wasn't feeling well, the morning sickness, which had been subsiding, returned with full force. After a few bites, I couldn't help but feel nauseous. "Ingrid, what's wrong?" Delbert's mother turned to me and asked, "I remember you mentioned feeling unwell a few days ago and wanted to go to the hospital. Did you get checked?" "I did," I waved my hand dismissively, "I'm fine, nothing serious." I glanced at Delbert, clearly signaling that if he didn't want to say anything, I wouldn't either. Ingrid is pregnant," Delbert chimed in. We had talked about this before, and I had specifically told him not to mention it to his parents, but he said they'd find out sooner or later. "Really?" Delbert's mother looked pleasantly surprised and beamed, "Ingrid, why didn't you tell us something this big?" She glanced at Gil, almost unconsciously. I guessed she was thinking about how Gil had just rushed over to hit me earlier. After all, having a child in your belly makes all the difference. "What does pregnant mean?" Gil innocently asked, looking up. Delbert's mother laughed, "Pregnant means, you're going to have a brother." Sure enough, Delbert's parents had a strong preference for boys. They'd say boys and girls were the same, but in reality, they weren't. I lowered my head, thinking, my child doesn't have an older sister, just an older brother who passed away 5 years ago. When they found out it was twins, Delbert's parents were even more excited. They smiled so widely that their mouths almost reached their temples. The real reason I came here was to let Delbert tell them this news. The day after dinner at the old house, Delbert's mother suddenly suggested moving in with us, saying she wanted to cook for me and take care of my daily needs. Since I had lost a child before, she was especially worried, particularly since I was pregnant with twins this time. I didn't refuse and enjoyed their care. Because deep down, I had a very malicious thought: the higher the expectations, the more painful it is when you lose something in the end. When I was pregnant with the previous child, I took care of myself and never bothered Delbert with doctor visits. But this time, I was smarter. I would make excuses for feeling unwell and asked Delbert to accompany me to every prenatal checkup. I'd come back and tell his mother, "In 2 months, we'll be able to tell the gender. The doctor will tell me." What's the point of asking? Boy or girl, it's fine either way, Delbert's mother said casually, but then quickly added, "But it'd be nice to know so we can prepare for the babies in advance." No matter if it was a boy or girl, neither would belong to them. If the child I lost 5 years ago had lived, she'd probably be as big as that girl by now. These past few days, I've been dreaming about that child. In my dream, she said to me, "Mom, I want to play with my brothers, I want to play with my brothers." Those words clearly made my mother-in-law's face darken. She sighed and took my hand, saying, "Forget the past. Focus on having these babies. If you don't want to see that girl, I won't let her come to the house again." I continued to pretend the child isn't at fault. After all, she's Delbert's daughter. If you want to bring her back to the house, I won't say anything. I'll just try not to go to the old house in the future. That won't do, my mother-in-law, with her traditional mindset, said firmly. You'll be weak after giving birth. Delbert and I can help take care of the babies. Once I had achieved my goal, I lowered my gaze and said no more. Don't worry, we won't let you suffer. I didn't ask, but I knew that from that day on, Delbert's parents never allowed Janice's child to show up. The toys they had bought for her were sent directly to Janice's house. To prepare for the 2 little lives in my belly, they spent time and effort renovating 2 large rooms, one for the bedroom, and one as a children's playroom. The park outside was also transformed into a playground. Everything was in shades of blue, and the toys were all boyish, like toy cars and toy guns. It's only been 3 months, you don't need to rush, I said. Better to prepare in advance, they replied. I gently rubbed my slightly visible belly and said in a soft voice, "Babies, your grandparents love you so much. Make sure to love them back when you're born." The couple beamed, clearly pleased, and they became even more eager to prepare little things for the babies. Perhaps because Delbert and his mother were always around me, Janice wasn't happy. She called me and invited me out. She brought her daughter with her, and the 2 of them looked pitiful together. Anyone who didn't know would probably think they were the original family, and I was the third party bullying them. As soon as I sat down, Janice tugged at her daughter, who was pouting, and told her to greet me. Humph. Her daughter, though small, had quite the temper. She glared at me angrily and turned her head away. She's like this, Ingrid. Don't take it personally. I didn't bother to respond and asked directly, if there's something to say, just say it. No need for all the roundabout ways. After all these years, Janice hadn't changed much. She still had a cold look, a small face, and a helpless demeanor that easily triggered a protective instinct in men. Delbert and I had essentially grown up together. At first, I would always stick to Delbert, following him around, but once he got to know Janice, he began to distance himself from me. Once they got together, Delbert and I completely drifted apart. We couldn't even be friends anymore. Just when I thought they would be together forever, and I'd spend my life carrying the secret love and bitterness, Delbert's family business hit a crisis. For the sake of her future, Janice broke up with Delbert. That difficult time was one I spent with Delbert. I accompanied him to the airport, watching helplessly as Janice went through security. At that time, Delbert was a far cry from the proud person he once was. He was consumed by despair. He cried and asked me, did she ever really love me? She loved not me, but my status, didn't she? Don't be sad, I'm here for you. I'll help you save the company. So, I went to my father, begging him to help Delbert. The day my father agreed to invest in his company, Delbert proposed to me, saying he'd spent his whole life making it up to me. 6 years passed. I was there for Delbert through his lowest days, and after helping him save the company, Janice returned with her child, trying to take Delbert back. There's no such thing as a free lunch. But she actually begged me softly, my daughter is only 5, she needs her father. Can you let Delbert go back to us? Her daughter needed a father, what about my children? I have 2 kids. I took a sip of water from the table, then slowly raised my head to look at the man who had just walked in. I asked him, Delbert, what do you think? Should I let you go to them? I called him over, actually wanting him to make a decision for once. But again, I was disappointed. He turned his head away, lowering his eyes, remaining silent for a long time. It's also my fault. After knowing him all these years, I never realized that, outside of work and school, he was utterly clueless when it came to handling personal matters. Because of his overbearing, well-meaning mother, she'd always managed everything for him, and now, when it came to these matters, he had no idea how to solve them. He felt deep responsibility and guilt toward me, but toward Janice, it was more about reluctance. So, he tried to please both sides, but when it came to choosing between me and Janice, he hesitated. He wanted neither of us to be hurt, for neither of us to resent him. But in the end, he ended up hurting both of us. I'm tired. You handle it yourself, I said, standing up and leaving with my bag. Delbert didn't chase after me. Instead, he comforted her and her daughter, saw them home, then came back. When he returned, he apologized, told me to come to him if I had anything to say, and not to go see them by myself. He promised he'd handle it. I was already tired of hearing these words. How could he handle it at his age? So I decided to handle the unborn child situation instead. But I didn't make a fuss about it. I let him continue playing both sides, dealing with Janice and me. I noticed he'd been under stress dealing with Janice, so I became gentler with him, trying to help him look forward to the good life that awaited once the babies were born. Twins. Surely, they meant more than Janice's single child. In the 5th month of my pregnancy, the weather warmed up, and my best friend, afraid I'd get bored at home, invited me out to shop. She asked, "Are you really going to have the baby and spend your life with that jerk?" I looked up at the clear blue sky and replied, "How could I? Could a heart that's already cooled be warmed again?" Even though the sun was so bright, I couldn't feel a single bit of warmth. "Looks like you've already made up your mind," she said, knowing I had a plan. She didn't press, and when she spotted a drink shop I liked across the street, her eyes lit up. "You wanted a drink, right? Wait here, I'll get it for you." Before I could refuse, she ran over and got in line. I was about to join her, but she pushed me gently and said, "It's hot outside. Go wait in the mall." I felt a warmth in my heart and nodded, "Okay." As I entered the mall, I noticed a mother and daughter walking in this direction. The mother was in a white dress, almost dragging the girl across the road. "You useless thing, how could you be so stupid? You can't even fight for the unborn child. What was the point of raising you like this?" "Mom, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Go find your dad. If he doesn't come back soon, I'll throw you away. Don't come back either." Ignoring the stares of others, the woman kept pinching and hitting the little girl, speaking cruelly. Curious, I drew closer, and was shocked to see that it was Janice mistreating her child. The girl cried in grievance, but dared not make a sound. "Go, don't embarrass us here." They walked off in another direction. Across the street, where Delbert worked. I had always thought that all children were loved by their parents, like me, like Delbert. But seeing this scene, I realized Janice was far scarier than I'd imagined. She didn't have the child to love her. She raised her only to use her as leverage over Delbert, to try and get him back. No wonder the nearly 6-year-old looked so thin, almost like a 4 or 5-year-old. She was pitifully underfed. No wonder the little girl always had that pitiable look, even shrinking away when she saw Delbert. I thought Janice had taught her to act that way, but the truth was, she wasn't loved by her mother at all. She was nothing but a tool to hold Delbert back. Thinking about it, I felt a little sad. During this time, I had been trying to get on good terms with Delbert's parents, while Delbert came home every day to be with me. Was Janice treating her like this every day? But what did that have to do with me? The little girl wasn't at fault, but I hadn't done anything wrong either. So why should I feel upset? Why should I pity her? While I stood there in a daze, my best friend walked over. Didn't I tell you to go inside? What are you standing here for? I snapped out of it, took the warm drink she handed me, and smiled. I was just waiting for you. Come on, let's go. Whatever you want to buy today, I'll treat you. Consider it an early gift from your godmother. All right, you said it. She continued, saying the weather was nice and life was beautiful, and we shouldn't let unimportant people or things mess up our lives. She was right, and I agreed with her. I thought I wouldn't see that little girl again, but a week later, I ran into her at my doorstep. She was crouching under a tree. When she saw me coming, she tried to hide, but I spotted her. I see you. Come out. After a long moment, she slowly emerged, her little body trembling. Did you come here by yourself? I asked her. She nodded slightly, her voice barely audible. Why did you come here? She bit her lip, staying silent and looking down, as if she'd done something wrong. Want some cake? I was craving sweets, so I went out and bought a small cake. Her eyes met mine, her big eyes like peeled grapes, sparkling. I couldn't deny it, she was really pretty. Her face was round, her nose and lips delicate. Probably because she'd been crying, her cheeks were rosy, and her eyes shimmered like water droplets. She was so cute. I should have disliked her, but when I saw that face, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. Delbert didn't have a round face, nor did Janice. I couldn't tell who she resembled, but her face was round and small, with a bit of a thin jaw. If she gained just a little more weight, her face would be even cuter. She stared at my cake for a long time without saying a word. I walked over, took her dirty hand, and said, "Eat it. You need to finish your food if you're going to have the strength to shout, 'Daddy, come home.' Why doesn't Daddy come to see me and Mommy?" She looked up at me and asked, "Is it because I'm naughty? Because I'm too stupid?" Her words made my heart ache. "When you finish, I'll tell you." I shook the little cake in my hand. She finally nodded and followed me into the house. Grandma wasn't here today, and Delbert had gone to work. The huge villa was left with just me and Gil. She seemed curious about the unfamiliar surroundings, looking around everywhere. "Aren't you supposed to dislike me? Why did you come here?" I asked her. She thought for a moment and replied, "Actually, I don't think you're that bad, but Mommy said you're a bad woman, but I don't think you are." "Oh?" I was curious about what she said. "Because I saw you feeding a stray cat." Her eyes widened, and her voice was soft and sweet, very pleasant to hear. "Mommy always kicks stray cats or dogs, but you didn't, so I think you're not bad." It seemed like this little one hadn't just been guarding the door all day. Is Janice really this reckless? Doesn't she fear that someone might abduct her? "I'll take you to wash your hands." I only realized after opening the cake box that her hands were very dirty. As I led her to the bathroom, she seemed a little resistant. I told her to roll up her sleeves, but she refused. "You'll get your clothes wet like that," I said again. "Then I won't eat it." She turned around to leave, and I grabbed her. As soon as I caught her hand, I heard her inhale sharply. I rolled up her sleeve, and saw a large purple bruise on her arm. It looked like it had been pinched. My heart tightened a little as I rolled up the other sleeve, revealing more bruises, one after another, and there were bruises on her legs and body too. "Did she hit you?" I asked softly, my throat tightening. She lowered her head and didn't answer, but tears started to fall. "It's because I'm too stupid, it's because I'm useless, that Mommy punished me." Her own mother. How could Janice do this to her? "Is it because Daddy doesn't come to your house that Mommy hit you?" I asked again. She nodded, then looked up at me, crying and pleading, "I know you're not a bad woman, you're a good person. Can you give Daddy back to us? Mommy says Daddy was always ours, but you took him away." Janice sure knows how to say things. "Daddy won't come back, and Mommy blames me, and hits me." "I'm sorry, I know you also have little brothers and sisters. If Daddy comes back with us, will they not have a daddy, and will you hurt them in the future?" "No." My throat caught, and I continued, "It's not your fault that Daddy isn't around, he's just really busy. You can tell Mommy that once he's done with this busy time, he'll come back." "Really? Really?" I don't know if Janice intentionally sent this little girl to me to perform this scene. But whether she meant to or not, she succeeded. As a mother, I couldn't just stand by and watch this little one suffer, especially when it was connected to me. She won. Actually, she won the day she brought the child back. I just refused to admit defeat. When I was about 7 months pregnant, with everyone eagerly awaiting, I left a divorce agreement and a forged miscarriage certificate, disappearing from their sight. Delbert panicked and searched for me frantically, calling and texting, but I naturally ignored him. Delbert, pretending to love me all these years must have been exhausting. I won't make you go through that anymore, don't look for me again. Though Delbert's company was doing well now, it still couldn't compare to my father's. My parents had the means to let me live comfortably in any country, and Delbert had no way of finding me. Living in a family where my parents and brother spoiled me, I was happy. I thought, my child would be happy too, even without a father. Before my due date, my child was born prematurely. Having lost a child before, both my parents and I were extra cautious this time. When something felt off, my parents immediately had me admitted to the hospital. They stayed by my side, comforting me, saying that this time, we would definitely have 2 healthy babies. But I was still very scared. I kept dreaming about the child I lost 5 years ago. The doctor told me the stillborn baby was a boy, but for some reason, I kept dreaming that it was a beautiful little girl. She had a round face and big eyes. She sweetly called me Mom, saying she was lonely and wanted to be with her little brothers and sisters. Baby, you'll bless Mommy, right? The doctor wheeled me into the operating room. As I saw their furrowed brows, I felt even more uncertain. Doctor, please save my baby, don't worry about me, just save the baby. A friend who studied medicine once told me that all obstetricians do everything in their power to ensure the safety of the mother, because the mother and baby are one, and the baby isn't born yet, so the mother's life is considered complete. But even so, I just wanted them to do everything they could to save my baby. Even if it meant sacrificing my own life. But in the end, due to excessive bleeding, the baby couldn't be saved, and my life was forever suspended at that moment. Don't sleep, Ingrid. Ingrid, wake up, look at Mommy, please don't sleep, okay? In my days, I heard familiar voices calling my name, asking me to wake up, over and over. But I was so tired, so exhausted. My body hurt so much, it felt like I couldn't breathe. I just wanted to rest for a while, just a little while. For the 10+ years I liked Delbert, it felt like I had never really lived for myself. I was always chasing his steps, even during the 3 years he was with Janice, I didn't stop. I thought if I tried a little harder, if I were more outstanding than Janice, if I could get a spot for graduate school, maybe he would turn back to look at me. But he didn't. Even though I got into the best art school in the country, he didn't even glance at me. Until that day, when his parents came to my house with gifts to ask my father for help. That was when he finally noticed me. I wish I could do everything over again, I would never make the same choice. My child surely didn't want to be trapped in this unhealthy family, which is why they didn't want to come into this world. Since they didn't want to, I won't force them either. So, when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at 22, sitting in a car on my way to meet Delbert. Suddenly, I felt that the sunshine outside was warm. I looked at the young man in front of me, wearing a white shirt and sitting straight, facing my refusal to his complicated, emotional proposal. I directly said, "No, I don't want to marry you anymore, and I don't need you to try to love me. I have my family who loves me, my best friends, and myself. I don't need your fake love." I thought he would feel a sense of relief, but instead, I heard him, eyes red, lowering his head and saying, "I'm sorry. I should be the one apologizing," I said with a bitter smile. "Delbert, your company has too many holes. My father probably won't be able to fill them." I hadn't forgotten the previous life, how much my father sacrificed in resources and money to try to save his company, which was on the brink of collapse. He worked overtime every day, so much so that his hair turned gray. I was too selfish, letting my childish obsession cause my parents to grow old with worry. "All right, it's okay," Delbert said with a relieved smile. I knew it, he never really wanted to marry me. Goodbye, I waved at him to say farewell, thankful that he didn't ask more questions or chase after me. In this life, I had loved too deeply. Having been given a second chance, I wanted to live a better version of myself. When I got home, I reached out to embrace my father and said, "Dad, we're not obligated to help them." "Why not?" "Aren't you?" "I don't like Delbert anymore. His ex-girlfriend seems to be pregnant with his child. I saw her at the obstetrics and gynecology clinic a few days ago. But, shoo, don't tell anyone. Well, alright, I won't say anything. But that brat is awful. He got another woman pregnant and still wants to marry my daughter, and he wants us to help his company? If it weren't for the years of friendship between our families, I'd want to stab him twice. Forget it. They're already like this, I'm too lazy to argue with them. Don't be sad, my daughter. I've always thought he had bad character, and his mom is too controlling. He doesn't have much backbone, so how could he treat you well? You'll meet someone better in the future. I know, but I don't want to get married anymore. I just want to stay with you, Mom and Dad, and my brother. Okay, no marriage then. Your dad will take care of you until you're old. Extra, Delbert. When I received the divorce papers and medical report Ingrid sent me, I thought she was joking. I rushed upstairs and found that she had taken her things. My parents had just returned from handling things in the countryside, bringing a lot of local items, saying they were for Ingrid to recover her health. They planned to hire 2 nannies to take care of the baby so Ingrid wouldn't have to worry. Looking at my parents, full of enthusiasm and hope, my throat tightened, and I almost couldn't speak. Ingrid, where is she? My mom asked, looking up at me. Is she sleeping? Let's get dinner ready, and we'll call her down when it's ready. My dad used to never care about house chores or what we ate every day, but since he found out Ingrid was carrying twins, he's been busy preparing the baby's toys and room or contacting relatives to get organic food from the countryside. But now, Ingrid had given up the children. She left, I said, realizing my voice had choked up. Where did she go? Back to her parents? My mom's first reaction was that Ingrid had gone home. As soon as my mom spoke, I realized what was happening. I immediately ran out the door. I drove all the way to her parents' house, but they weren't there. The maid told me the whole family had taken Ingrid to the hospital for surgery and then took her abroad for recovery. I called Ingrid desperately, but all I got was a message from her saying, pretending to love me all these years must have been exhausting for you. I won't make you suffer like that again. Don't try to find me. Looking at those words, my eyes seemed clouded with fog. Are you getting back at me, Ingrid? I gripped my phone, my heart trembling. I couldn't even describe how I felt in that moment. Was it more regret or more anger? I had always thought I was doing well over the past 6 years, spending time and energy with her and showing her all my kindness. Even when I was with Janice, I didn't have this much patience. Admittedly, part of why I treated Ingrid so well was because her father helped us, and I owed her. But in truth, the moment Janice showed up with her child, I realized my feelings for Ingrid weren't just gratitude and debt anymore. I didn't want to be apart from her, and I didn't want to go back to Janice. But she didn't give me that chance. When my parents found out, their first reaction was anger. They cursed Ingrid, calling her heartless, accusing her of killing our child. My mom broke down in tears, unable to accept the reality. Yes, the 6-month-old babies had already developed, how could she cruelly abandon them? But if she hadn't hated me to the point of no return, how could she have brought herself to abandon our children? My parents wanted to go find her family, but I stopped them. I knew, even if we found Ingrid, it would be too late. The children were gone. I had once thought that I didn't love Ingrid, only feeling moved and grateful. For 6 years, I had been like a puppet, following my mom's instructions to be good to Ingrid. But was it really only because my mom told me to? No, it wasn't. 6 years ago, after Janice left and the company went through turmoil, I was emotionally down, feeling miserable every day. It was Ingrid who stayed by my side and helped me get through it. She showed me the drawings she made, with the sunshine boy in the picture being me. The confident, optimistic boy who always wore a warm smile was me. She said, "The Delbert I know is the best guy. He'll help the family overcome this crisis and bring the company back to life." She said, "Delbert, I'll be by your side. I'll always be with you." For 6 years, she stayed by my side, never leaving for a single day. But now, when I return home from work to the huge empty house, there's no warm food waiting for me, no hug as she runs to greet me. No trace of her, as if she had never existed. At that moment, I understood. It wasn't her family's power or the children in her womb that I loved. It was her. Even though she had abandoned our children, I still wanted to win her back. She was my wife, forever. I put down my work and asked someone to go look for her. After nearly 2 months of searching, I finally found a clue by tracking her family's whereabouts. She was living in a small country. But before I could go find her, I received a call from Gil's school saying she had an accident and was being sent to the hospital, asking me to come. "I'm sorry, that's not my daughter," I said coldly and hung up. I blamed everything on the mother and daughter. In fact, if it weren't for them returning, Ingrid would never have cruelly given up our child. The teachers kept calling, "Mr. Delbert, please come, the child is in critical condition, and we can't get through to her mother. We really don't know what to do." At that moment, I thought I had already lost 2 children. Gil is still my child, and I couldn't let her get hurt. So I went. Standing outside the operating room, the doctor asked, "Mr. Delbert, do you have any relatives or friends with type O blood? The hospital blood bank is insufficient, and getting blood from another hospital will take at least half an hour. What do you think? Give her mine, I'm her father." I hurriedly extended my hand but suddenly froze. Wait. O blood type? Why is it O? Janice clearly said she was type A, just like me. How could it be O blood? I'm type A, Janice is type AB, so our child could be type A, type B, or AB, but never type O. Suddenly, I remembered the checkups I'd accompanied Ingrid to over the past few months and noticed her blood type was O. I had done a paternity test and was sure that Gil was my child. So, a ridiculous thought floated through my mind. But this wasn't the time to think about that. I needed to focus on saving the child first. I contacted my assistant and told him to gather all the O blood type employees at the company immediately. 10 minutes later, he brought over more than 10 healthy O-type employees. 3 hours later, Gil was out of danger. Janice arrived late, and under my interrogation, she confessed everything. Gil was not her child. After she broke up with me and went abroad, she was never pregnant. A year later, when she regretted it and came back, she found that Ingrid and I had not only gotten married but also had a child. Ingrid happened to have an OBGYN friend at the hospital where she was having her checkups and giving birth. Janice bribed the doctor and stole my and Ingrid's child. Now I understood why Gil looked so familiar, but neither Janice nor I resembled her. It was because she looked so much like Ingrid when she was little. However, because of years of malnutrition and abuse, she was much thinner than Ingrid had been as a child, so the resemblance wasn't as obvious. Seeing Janice kneeling in front of me, begging for forgiveness, crying bitterly, I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for her. I called my parents to look after Gil and booked a flight to find Ingrid. As for Janice, I planned to deal with her when Ingrid returned. I couldn't wait. I wanted to tell her that Gil was our child, that the child 5 years ago hadn't died but was stolen by Janice. Our child was still alive. But when I finally got there after a long, difficult journey, what I saw was her cold body. She hadn't given up on the children, she had planned to give birth to them secretly, but, in the end, it was these 2 children that caused her never to wake up. Ingrid, why did you lie to me? At that moment, I really wished she had given up on the 2 children. Because then, she wouldn't have left. Ingrid, can I take you home? Let's go home. I wanted to take Ingrid away, but her brother and father stopped me, each landing a punch. They wouldn't let me take Ingrid, saying we were already divorced. But we hadn't divorced. Ingrid and I hadn't divorced. We had a child, a 5-year-old child. I ultimately didn't bring Ingrid back. She hated me and probably didn't want to see me. She likely hoped to be buried properly by her parents. But I, without permission, had a grave made for her, with a collection of the art books she had given me placed inside. She had drawn them for me. She loved painting and had a talent for it. I remember when she was young, she always said she wanted to be a painter when she grew up, but after marrying me, she painted less to spend time with me. When she lost our first child, she became somewhat depressed and would always cry when she picked up a brush. So I told her not to paint anymore. It wasn't until 3 years later that she began to recover, but it seemed that with the loss of the child, part of her artistic talent also vanished. She always said that her paintings weren't as good as they used to be. I comforted her, saying, "No, they're still beautiful." Actually, I meant it. Her paintings really were beautiful. After returning home, I locked myself in my room, sitting on the balcony where she used to paint, staring at the easel she had used. My heart felt empty. I had heard before that when the one you love leaves, it doesn't feel so sad in that instant. The real sadness comes when you return home, sit on the sofa you both sat on, lie on the bed you both slept in, open the fridge and see the food inside, and look at the things she left behind. In that moment, you feel like without her, the whole world has turned dark, and it will never be sunny again. At that moment, looking at the easel she didn't take with her, I finally understood that feeling. Gil was discharged from the hospital after staying for half a month. My parents went to pick her up. I watched from a distance, feeling even sadder. I couldn't bring myself to talk to her, afraid that I would break down the moment I spoke. I didn't know what kind of mood to face her with, and I didn't know how to tell her that her biological mother wasn't Janice, but Ingrid, who had died because of me. Janice came up to beg me, asking me to let her continue being Gil's mother. How could that be? I held back my anger and finally said, "Go turn yourself in, or I don't know what I'll do." I gave her a cold look before turning away. I was afraid that if I looked at her for another second, I would do something cruel. Janice was hateful, but I wasn't any better. She was eventually punished by the law, but as for me? There is no law that can punish me. I'll have to live my life in regret. This is the punishment I deserve. After Gil was discharged, I changed her name. It was the name Ingrid had once chosen. Ingrid, our child has returned, but what about you? When will you come back? Although I changed my daughter's name and let her move into our house, I still couldn't bring myself to get too close to her. I realized that the older she got, the more she resembled Ingrid. Her round face, still a bit babyish, with those big eyes. It was like Ingrid was carved from the same mold. How had I never noticed it before? Every time I looked at my daughter for just a moment longer, I felt myself missing Ingrid even more. I would always dream of Ingrid in the few minutes right before I fell asleep at night. Most of those dreams were beautiful, of us when we were younger. As a child, she was so playful and loved to laugh. She always liked holding my hand, saying, "Play with me." She loved skipping rope, playing chess, and staying close to me. When she was lively, she was full of energy, but when she painted, she became especially quiet and focused. Without realizing it, I had learned how to draw, even to the point where I could sketch her outline. But as time passed, her image seemed to fade more and more. My daughter grew up, and she looked less and less like her. One day, I had another dream. I dreamt that I went back to when we were 22, and my mother took me to her house, pleading with her father to help us. I dreamt of calling her up to ask her out, to propose to her. But this time, she didn't agree. Looking at her fair, serious face, tears suddenly welled up in my eyes. I suddenly realized, this wasn't a dream. I really had come back, and so had she. But we could never go back. End.